Angels! Hey, Brangels, I got my brain. The same brain that Ben D is eating. But anyway, welcome, Brangels, to another episode of The Brain Truth. This is episode 2.13. I hope I got that right. I think I said 2.13 last week. Anyway, this is The Brain Truth with Allison Jordan on The Brain Truth Radio at iHeartRadio station. Find us on YouTube. And again, when you find us on YouTube, please go and subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podbean, Google Podcasts, TuneIt, Player FM, Amazon Music, Listen Notes, and anywhere you can listen to your podcasts. And of course, here at thebraintruth.com, live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard. And guess what, guys? Brangels, hello, Brangels. Now you can catch me every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Standard on the AC Green Show on Inspiration 1390. So don't forget, The Brain Truth is there also. And don't forget, guys, on our website, we have the Amazon store. So we're like an Amazon affiliate. Not we're like, but we're an Amazon affiliate now. So for every dollar you spend, a small proceeds go to the work we're doing here at The Brain Truth. Okay. So that's at thebraintruth.com. Now, remember we talked about traffic control. Traffic control is at the top of every hour. So remember, every single hour, no matter what you're doing, you can be in mid-sentence. I mean, the only thing you can't be doing is like operating on somebody or like something real important like that. But every hour is a chance for you to recalibrate, to take a deep breath, right? And to rethink, to stop all the negative thoughts, reprogram the way you're going to approach somebody. Like, check yourself. Am I thinking about something negative? Am I about to say something negative to somebody? Am I about to go off on my man or my husband? So at traffic control, every night at the show, no matter who's talking, so don't think we're rude, we're going to pause, hopefully led by Dr. Ivy, but we're going to take a few deep breaths, just a few seconds, and recalibrate, okay? So traffic control, put it in your phone every hour, traffic control. Okay, so today is going to be a really good show. And I have a co-host with me today. And that's because, remember, I'm a consumer. I was going to say just a consumer, but Dr. Ivy said I'm just not a consumer, but I'm a consumer. I am a person that is living with mental illness, remember? And so for me, this show is important because I also am learning every week along with you. So the reason I brought like this really powerful co-host is that he can help lead this conversation and talk about this show, because this show is going to be very important. We're just going to be talking to you. We're not going to be interviewing anybody. We're going to be talking to you, my Brangels, so that we can get clarity on the distinctions with counseling. Because why? We're celebrating National Counseling Awareness Month. Woo! That's why we're here tonight. Okay. So I'm going to bring on Khalid, Khalid B. Scott, a BS, MSW, LCSW, CADC, CODPIC. He got to tell me what all this stuff is. SWHC, CWEL, LPHA. Those are a lot of credentials. Has a social work career spanning over 28 years. Currently, he is licensed clinical social worker, substance use disorder, SUD, specialist at the Department of Veterans Affairs, Jesse Brown Hospital, Chicago, providing housing and substance abuse services to homeless veterans. Khalid is also a contractual psychosocial therapist, providing individual, family, and couples counseling with international high achievers and CLO psychologicals. Did I say that right? In his spare time, he mentors both adults and youths, provides social work-based training and workshops, and is a motivational speaker for various Chicagoland forums. Khalid, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Hi, Khalid.
What's going on, beloved? How are you doing
to The
this
Brain
evening?
Truth with Allison Jordan. See, last time you were here, you broke up with me. And so now
I
I got you for the
know.
whole time. I
I
told you I was
know.
going to get you. He double booked y'all. And this man, you are so profound. I said it before. Hi, Kimberly. I see you. Woosa. I the last time I spoke to you, and we talked before, you are so profound and so dynamic. I love you so much. And I watch you and your daughter, and you just really exemplify just, this really hands-on man that just cares about stuff. So before we get into the show of co-hosting and everything, just tell us why you do what you do. Why you do what you do.
Right. Allison, is no secret. I grew up without a father. I grew
Mm,
up with a teenage single parent mom. And I grew up in an impoverished neighborhood, Terrortown, on the southeast side of Chicago. And I'm
okay.
proud of all of my life lessons that I've been through. But I knew early on that I owed the world something for what it
Wow.
gave me. And for the last almost 29 years going on, I've dedicated my life to making sure people have the best life that they can possibly have, even if they have the worst scenarios that they're dealing with.
That's awesome. And you walk the walk and you talk the talk. So
Absolutely.
let's get into the show. Go ahead, and I'm going to kick it to you and
Okay.
our support with the Ukraine.
Absolutely. So please continue to support the efforts in the Ukraine by donating to the World's Central Kitchen. So far, 1 million meals have been served to families across Ukraine, Poland, Romania, Moldova, and Hungary. And also, please support Urgent Action Fund for Women's Human Rights, which are providing everything from food and transportation to shelter for those fleeing the conflicts. So please visit the urgentactionfund.org.
All right, it's time for the brain bit. You're
Yeah.
doing the brain bit today.
Drum
I'm not
roll,
trying to get
please.
played today. Come on, host.
Absolutely. Okay, so now the Brain Truth is all about wellness for the mind, body, and soul. And we kick each show off with a little laughter because we know laughter is the medicine for our soul. So here's today's brain bit. Why did the brain go running?
Do no 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 no
Okay,
no do no 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 no
it
no.
wanted to jog its memory. Get it. And this is Sarah Jones from Park Forest, Illinois. Well, thank you, Sarah, for the
Okay.
laugh.
All right. So we'd love to hear from you. So if you have any brain bit jokes, always hit us on the Facebook at The Brain Truth or at www.thebraintruth.com or hit us up Brain Truth Radio at Gmail. Now let's get into our sponsors, because doing this podcast takes a lot of little money and we need more sponsors. So I want to thank Swabs and Swirls. We're still offering free COVID testing, everybody. Even though everybody's telling to go out without the mask, we're still getting positive tests. So if you're having a family gathering or any type of event, please hit us up at swabsandswirls@gmail.com and we'll come out and do some COVID testing for you. NAMI South Suburbs, which of course I'm a board member, and we have a very important person for the brain rain tonight from NAMI South Suburbs, River Edge Hospital, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and General Wealth Team. So if you'd like to be a sponsor, and we really do need sponsors, go to thebraintruth.com, or of course, give us a cash app at money sign the brain truth. That's cash app, the money sign the brain truth. Now, we also want to leverage, like you, Khaled, are on our Brainiac board. And so if you guys are interested in being on our Brainiac board are a group of individuals that may or may not be connected to the mental health environment, but have a voice. And we want to make sure that we're just not in the mental health community, but that we are understanding different things that are going on in the place of the world that we need to please highlight or talk about. Right? Okay. And you also, if you want to be a brain gang, that's for our clinicians. And so our brain gang are our experts, our therapy. I call them my antidote. Remember, I got healing from my gang members, and we just like that. We gang members. Like, we need to come up with a sign, though. Dr. Gibbs, we need to come up with a brain gang. That's not offensive, like brain gang. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the brain gang are my antidote. They represent my healing journey, my story. So if you want to be a brain gang, if you want to be on our resource page, or if you want to be on the Brainiac board, go to thebraintruth.com or hit us up at thebraintruthradio@gmail. Okay, so I want to get to the brain rain. So the brain rain segment is what just we said. Is people that are out here making their brain rain. They're using their brain for really important things, whether it's a business or just doing good in the community. So tonight is my vice president of NAMI South Suburbs, and that's Lisa Guardiola, has been living. Well, I didn't know if she wanted me to tell you this, but it's in her bio. I got it off the website. With schizophrenia for 17 years. Passionate about helping others with mental illness, Guardiola is a community outreach and education trainer for the Sir Thomas Center and the vice president of NAMI South Suburbs of Chicago, where she leads educational trainings and initiatives. All right, come on in, come on in. Hey, Lisa!
Hi!
Hi, Lisa!
Hi, Allison. Hi!
Welcome to the Brain Truth. That's my
thank you for having
co-host.
me. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited, even though I just saw you at a board meeting last night, but I had on a robe and I didn't have on no lipstick. So, hey, girl! But I just want to first tell you a little bit of Lisa. When I got on the board, now, mind you, I want to make this story short because we got a pack show and I like to talk. I'm sorry, y'all. But I was searching for a therapist because I remember I had spent 19 days in a psychiatric hospital, and I had a therapist, but I wasn't getting better. I see you, Jenny. And I called 20 something places that took my insurance, and most of them were, and we're going to get into that, backed up. Nobody's taking new patients, blah, blah, blah. And it was the last place I called, which was Sir Thomas. And Lisa, you answered the phone.
Yes,
and you weren't supposed to answer the phone because you're a VIP. But see how God works? You know, things are just in divine order. So you answered that phone that night. And I just began to tell you, I need some help and this and that. And you said, you know, I'm on NAMI. When you said that you work with NAMI, it like jugged my spirit. Why? Because when I was in the hospital, NAMI was so instrumental in my healing, y'all. And I said to myself when I got on my knees in the hospital, when those 9 days that I cannot account for, and I made that commitment that I'm going to go on this search to find out what happened to my brain, I said, I want to work with NAMI. And I planted that in the universe. So when you said NAMI, I remember saying, oh my God. And you said there was a board seat available and to fill out. Now, people, I was in no condition to be on nobody's board. My antidepressants weren't even re-upped yet. Okay. And, you know, I did it anyway. And I think a few weeks you called me and said I've been nominated for the board. And I screamed like somebody said I won $10 million. Do you remember when I blew your eardrum out?
Yes, I do.
I was like, ah! And that's because destiny, you know, speaks.
Exactly.
And God's will speaks. So, Lisa, why are you doing what you do?
Well, you know, first of all, NAMI saved my family and my life. I am also a consumer, so I myself am living with schizophrenia. I was diagnosed formally in 2004, and I've been on my road to recovery ever since. And, you know, my mom actually, I was at a place in my life where I was not in a place where I understood what my diagnosis meant. And I was very much didn't think that there was anything wrong. And so my mom, fearing for my life because I had kind of given her a couple of signs that because I was suicidal at the time, my mom had me involuntarily committed to a hospital. And, you know, I know a lot of people, when they hear that, they think, oh, your rights were stripped away. But you know what? It was the best thing for me. It saved my life. My mother and NAMI saved our lives. My mom had actually was going to the family group, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit. But she was in the middle of their class, and the week prior to her committing me to the hospital, they were talking about suicide and what you should do if your loved one is suicidal. And if my mom hadn't had that class, I don't know if she would have known what to do and how to help me. So when I was released from the hospital upon my discharge, and I started to feel better, I wanted to give back to the community that gave to me.
Yes.
You know, so we became active volunteers for NAMI. Eventually, my mom was nominated, you know, to the board. She's
an incredible president. You guys lead with love. It's like family. I call her mom. So it tells you about our board.
So she worked her way through and eventually became the president of the board. They nominated me as vice president, and Me and my mom and our whole board work together to, educate, advocate, and to support those who are living with mental health conditions and their families, because, mental illness doesn't just affect the person that is living with the mental health condition. It affects the whole family unit,
Yes.
and our family members really are kind of at a loss. They don't know what to do and how to help their loved ones and to advocate for them. And so we try to, fill that gap. We try to help not just the person who is living with the condition, but also the family members to understand the diagnosis, to know what to do if their loved one is struggling, how to interact with them, and, to give them support. So that is our main mission at NAMI South
Now,
Suburbs.
Khalid, jump on in there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me ask you this. Did you find in your mental health travel, did you find qualified clinicians who were empathetic with your needs?
Yes, actually, I did. I was very fortunate. When I was in the hospital, a social worker had come in from, I think it was Grand Prairie Services, if I remember correctly. And they were kind of helping me with my discharge and to help me with wraparound services when I left the hospital.
Okay.
I was very lucky that the first psychiatrist that I had interactions with was wonderful. She talked about recovery. It wasn't just about you are diagnosed with schizophrenia and take these pills and, that's it. She really encouraged me to, go to a day program and to work towards going back to school and getting back to work. And I wouldn't be where I am today without her.
And I was at Grand Prairie Services too. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
First time I'm learning this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first mental health provider that I went to was Grand Prairie Services. Unfortunately, my psychiatrist moved on to another mental health provider. So when that happened, I went to another provider. I went to our day program at Thresholds. I was with Thresholds from 2005 to 2009. And in that time, I went through their community scholars program. I went back to school. I got my associates from South Suburban College, and then I transitioned and went back to, I transferred to St. Xavier University, and I graduated in 2012 with a bachelor's in psychology and a bachelor's in studio arts. And so it's my lifelong wish to be an art therapist.
That's awesome. So yes. Tell us, well, for those who don't know, what does NAMI stand for?
So NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Right. And they're the largest grassroots.
Yes, they are. They are the largest grassroots organization within the United States. It actually was started by family members.
Right. I read that in a kitchen or something.
Yeah, in a kitchen. Yes, it was. And it's grown to a national organization. Our NAMI National is out of Virginia. And every state has a state NAMI. So like for instance, in NAMI, Illinois, we have a NAMI Illinois affiliate.
But you're vice president, right? Of
the board?
No.
I'm not. I'm just on the board. Yeah, I'm not the vice president, but I'm on the board.
Got it.
And then they kind of oversee the 20 affiliates that are in the state of Illinois.
And we're NAMI South Suburbs, y'all. And we need money, and we need support, and we need some board members, and we need some volunteers for an event coming up. So tell us about what's coming up. So what we have coming up.
Yeah, so we have a couple things coming up. So actually we have a youth mental health first aid training that's on Tuesday, April 12th. We still have openings
y'all write
available.
This stuff down. I be telling y'all, Jenny, you got your pen. Kim, y'all got y'all pen, or you screenshot this stuff. Why is it so important? The stuff that we say on this show, I tell y'all every week. And do y'all know y'all still email me and text me? And can you tell me what that number was? I don't, Write it down or watch the show again, because we're here. So
So
tell us everything we got coming up. I'm sorry.
So
I just
that's
gotta be
okay.
talking to my brain jewels because
That's
okay.
fine. That's fine. So we have a youth mental health first aid coming
Yeah.
up on April 12th. It's going to be from 8 to 4. And this course is to help individuals that work with youth to know the signs and symptoms of the different disorders and to recognize the difference between typical adolescent behavior and when a condition may be rising. So that's the 12th. On the 19th, the next Tuesday after, we have an adult mental health first aid, and that is for individuals that work, helps them to it talks about the signs and symptoms of depression, anxiety, psychosis, and substance use disorder. And it
she's
teaches
an
you.
amazing, your computer's going in and out, Lisa.
Okay.
But you are an amazing instructor. I am certified as a mental health first aider for adults and children, honey.
Yes.
And I also want to talk about burgers and blankets. Now, the stuff that you sent me, I couldn't put on the screen because it wasn't well, not me personally, but my producers couldn't size it. But I do want to talk about burgers for blankets, which is something that we came up with. I'm now the chair of it. So burgers for blankets is our huge fundraiser. And it's, well, you said it's in October. We may have to switch that, but from 11 a.m. So here's the thing, people. We need blankets. Listen very clearly, because I got a lot of people on the show, a lot of successful people on the show. So burgers for blankets. What does that mean? For every blanket, you get a free burger from our participating restaurants in the South Suburbs. So what you have to do is we'll be at the Bremen Township Senior Complex and we'll be collecting these blankets, right? And for every blanket, we'll give you a thing. So what we need free burgers donated and we need blankets donated. I think this year our goal is to try to give away 300 burgers. So I've got some people out there that's going to donate. But Lisa, we couldn't put all the flyers here. So we're going to have to direct people to the website. Okay.
Yes.
So we're gonna move on with the show. We want to highlight you. We want to make sure that people get in contact with you. And so for anybody that wants to get more information on NAMI South Suburbs of Chicago.org, please go to our website. All the information we talked about on the mental health first aid training, as well as burgers for blankets, how to get involved. You can always hit us up at the Brain Truth as well. And then of course, that's how you get in touch with my girl, Lisa. Here's all of her social media. And we thank you. We thank you, Lisa. And thank you for being part of the Brain Rain.
I'll see you for having me
in the next couple of days because we have another meeting.
Yes, we do.
All right, guys. So let's get into the brain buzz. Okay. So here's the brain buzz for tonight. According to Hopkins Medicine, how common is depression? Major depressive disorder is one of the most common mental health issues in the United States, after anxiety disorders. It's estimated that, listen very clearly, 21 million U.S. adults have at least one major depressive episode in a given year. 21 million. According to our World in Data, the global population who is depressed, about 264 million people worldwide. A new study published by Preventative Medicine shows that African Americans and Latinos are significantly more likely to experience serious depression than whites. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States, affecting over 40 million adults age 18 and older. And guess what? Ages 3 to 17, approximately 4.4 million, and those 3 to 17 years old, approximately 1.9, have been diagnosed with depression. So there's a lot of depression and anxiety. So don't sit there and say y'all don't have depression and anxiety, because I already told y'all the numbers. So stop playing. Or is the word stop capping? I don't know which one. Okay. So we gave you the numbers for those who are living with mental health. Now, is there a shortage of therapists in the US? That's what I heard. According to goodtherapy.org, all of the shortages caused by the pandemic, the therapist shortage is among the most troubling. The number of people seeking mental health services so exceeds available appointments that people across America are being placed on wait lists that are 10 deep. And I have some people on here tonight that can verify that and confirm that. Over 115 million people in the United States live in a designated health professional shortage area.
Yes.
These are areas which are the ratio of mental health professionals to residents is smaller than 1 per 30,000 people. Shortages are more likely to occur in rural areas due to lack of funding and infrastructure. According to US News, one of the primary causes for limited mental health care is that it's simply not enough qualified mental health professionals to meet the demand. Okay? Meet the demand. In an article of Barna, the visionary research company states that not only does the shortage play a key factor, but that good old stigma, y'all know we talk about the stigma monster, mostly in churches, we talked about that too, which has at times struggled in its messaging on the issue. All right, guys. So I'm just telling you like a TI is, like my mama say, like a TI is. All right, so we're going to get into today's show right after our disclaimer. Okay. The Brain Truth does not serve the purpose of providing medical treatment or therapy services, diagnosis, prevention, or cure for any physical, mental, or emotional issue, disease, or condition. As a member of our audience, you agree that the Brain Truth does not assume liability for any physical or mental disease, condition, or issue, or any other type of loss or damage due to any information shared on our broadcast. Today is National Counseling Awareness Day. National Counseling Aware. I don't know if there's a theme song, but it sounds really good. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the distinctions in counseling. Why is that important? Because yesterday somebody called me and told me they had to go to the emergency room and they were going to call a therapist and let them know at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, nope, that's not how that goes. A person was having a manic situation. You're not going to call your therapist. You're going to go 911. They had a gun, all that stuff. So along with the training, we're going to be talking about what you do and what you don't do. You just don't do that. And they don't know what they don't know, right? So Counseling Awareness Month is a time of advocacy for the profession and celebration of the outstanding efforts of counselors in a myriad of settings as they seek to facilitate the growth and development of all people. All right, now. Let's bring on our guest, honey. And we're getting ready to come up on a traffic control. So bring in Khalid in 3 minutes. Go.
All righty. Okay, so our first guest is my brother in this journey.
Y'all know each other?
Yes, we've sat on panels together.
Everybody knows Obari, Dr. Obari.
Absolutely.
Here, I'm eating up your time. Let me shut up.
Right. So without further ado, Dr. Cartman is the president of the Chicago chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists. He's a therapist, photographer, and drummer. He received his undergraduate degree from Hampton University and a PhD in clinical and community psychology from Georgia State University. He has worked as a professor of psychology at Georgia State University, UIC, and the Carruthers Center for Inner City Studies at Northeastern University here in Chicago. Currently, Dr. Cartman works as a restorative justice coach with HELP LLC, Healing, Empowerment, and Learning Professions in the Chicago Public School System. He also conducts trainings for adults and workshops for youth and maintaining mental health, critical analysis of hip hop and media, racial and cultural identity, developing authentic manhood, and healthy relationships. So without further ado, please help us bring on my brother, Dr. Cartman.
The Dr. Obari Cartman. We be having like whole feast conversations about you, brother. Especially when Dr. Geddes get on here. I admire what you do. I appreciate it. You are, oh my God, I get chills thinking about, I read somewhere where you are the leading psychologist or specialist or mental health professional for men's mental health. Is that correct? I already know that, but that's your claim to fame along with a lot of other stuff. And I can't wait to talk to you and get into the show about men and mental health because we talked about toxic masculinity one show. And then while we were talking about toxic masculinity, the person I was interviewing became toxic masculinity-ish. And I was like, hold on now, wait a second. This was all he done win. Y'all talked to my producers. He was like, I don't ask me that. Okay, we got to stop for traffic control right now. Dr. Ivy, where are you? We go stop for traffic control for 30 seconds. Rethink. Where are we right now? Are we in a place where it's positive? Okay. All right, bring on our next guest, Kylie. Let's get them all in here so we can get down to the get down.
All righty. Okay. So our next guest is Pat Windsor, who is a LCSW, is a network therapist with Blue Cross, Aetna, and other insurances with an office on the south side of Chicago. For 25 years, she has specialized in relationship conflicts, parenting dilemmas, depression, stress, and anxiety, an AEP, Employee Assistant Programs specialist in military families. Most recently provided services to Afghanistan refugees.
Wow. Come on in here, Pat. Welcome, Pat. How are you? Welcome to the Brain Truth. All right.
Right.
Keep going.
Okay. Next, we have Francie Mama Makiba Giordani. Is a professionally trained and experienced psychotherapist and life coach, and owner of the Steel Mill Counseling and Wellness Services. She uses internal family systems, EMDR, dialectic trauma-focused cognitive, and rational emotive behavior therapies, along with transpersonal psychology to help individuals, teens, and adults surviving crises, PTSD, anxiety, borderline personality disorders, depression, codependency, fears of abandonment, bipolar disorder, anger, and child abuse. Welcome, Dr. Giordani.
Where's Francie? Okay, go on and go
All
to
right.
Stephanie.
Okay. Stephanie Adams, a certified professional counselor with experience advising and assisting students with student development, secondary and post-secondary planning, college and career research and readiness, academic struggles and successes, personal and interpersonal relationships, as well as social emotional issues. An expertise in includes leadership, organization and communication skills, and the ability to build a positive rapport with students, parents, faculty, and administrators alike.
Come on in here, Stephanie.
Hey,
Where's
Stephanie.
Stephanie? School counselor. Woo! Hey, Stephanie. And then I want to bring on Dr. Ivy Hilton, who's also one of my producers and one of my brain gangs. She's been studying bioengineering, vibrational healing, and metaphysics for over 30 years. She is a licensed independent clinical social worker, minister, and retreat facilitator, an internationally known classical sacred performance artist, holistic psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, aromatherapist, professional development trainer, national restorative justice trainer, author, and mindfulness instructor. And she's also my in-house spiritual advisor. Come on in here, Dr. Ivy. And then we have none other than my sidekick, Dr. Gaddens, honey, who's also one of our producers and one of our brain gang members, and currently holds double board certifications in both adult and child psychiatry. She is also licensed to practice medicine in Illinois, Florida, and California. She is the owner and medical director of Clarion Conscious LLC, a private practice telehealth solutions company providing convenient, remote, individualized medical services in the Miami, Los Angeles, and Chicagoland area. Her clinical work has been featured in many publications and media outlets, including Ebony Magazine. Dr. Gaddings' mission as a medical director specializing in psychiatry is to bring mental health awareness to the mainstream and dismantle the misconceptions and stigma associated with it. Through preventative medicine and integrative wellness education, she empowers individuals to make the conscious decision to live their healthiest life. Dr. Gaddings' platform includes domestic violence advocacy, mind-body medicine, and disease prevention. Woo! Woo, that was a lot. It took all this time just to get y'all scholarly, licensee, mental healthy people all up in the dang on room. Come on in here, Dr. Gaddings. Where are you? So, and I see you joined us, Francie. So before we get this, first I want to say thank you guys for being here in this conversation. This conversation is crucial. Why is this conversation important? It's because everybody out there does not know the distinction between all of you people. And I, having a person with mental illness, I actually got a chance to know, what this journey of mental wellness looks like. So before we get started, I'm going to do a icebreaker, but we're going to take 2 minutes because I think I have a surprise person that wants to come in and just say one thing. Get in here really quickly, Coca, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Get in here, get in here, get in here, get in here, get in here. And Coca, you got 1 whole minute. Go. She's one of my brain people, but go.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to enlighten the world to let everybody know that therapy works. It took a long journey for me to even accept the fact that therapy was what I needed. And thanks to people in my life, such as Allison and Dr. Gettings and Prophet June Hollingsworth, it gave me the encouragement to do what I needed to do to heal. And I advise anybody that if you're going through anything, that mental health works, therapy works. I love the fact that I'm in therapy and it has given me a well-rounded view for healing and in my journey.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And we needed to hear that. That set the tone.
Yes.
And she actually came on my show and for the first time told us in detail your whole journey of trauma. And you said publicly on that show that you were going to go get help, and you did just that.
Absolutely.
And so kudos to you. I love you, Coca. Thank you for
I love you all
I'm glad
too.
you called me and asked. And so let's get into this conversation. I want to spend
Okay.
1 minute talking to each one of y'all. This is an icebreaker. I need y'all to give me like 1 minute of your specialty and what you saw during the slap.
The slap.
The slap. I need everybody to give me their professional assessment because you all are professionals. So y'all not sitting there like regular people. You know,
Right.
I have people who say like, go Will team, but you guys are coming from a different place. So I just kind of want to hear from the different specialties. Give me your 1 second. Go. Start with you, Obari Carton, Dr. Carton.
1 minute is tough. I would have liked for, if he is truly trying to protect his wife, to immediately turn to her and ask her what she needs. I think we need to reconceptualize what it means to protect Black women. I think that we have very narrow versions of that. A lot of what we do in performance on literal stages sometimes in the name of protecting women looks more like protecting our own egos, our own images. I believe that Will Smith has lots of long histories of trauma. My prayer for him is that I read his book, and I have a prayer for him that child version of him that still lives in his body, that was unable to have the power to protect his mother from his father, forgives himself for that. I believe there's lots of things that men need to do to reconceptualize what it means to be strong and powerful, and that ain't it for me. I think that it's a larger conversation about what is soft and what is hard and what is compassionate and what is manly that I feel like a lot of people were responding to in ways that contributed to the narrative that when you feel offended, that it's okay to go and hit somebody in the face. In Chicago, that is a dangerous precedent to set. People die with that impulse. And we've allowed young men to hear our conversation to now go say, if somebody says something about my girl on Snapchat, if somebody disrespect me or do something that I don't like, now I heard my father say that's what you're supposed to do. I heard my mother say that's what a man does. And I think it's a dangerous precedent. I think that we need to recover some of the damage of the conversation happening after that moment of the slap, because those elite Black folk will be fine, but those rest of us will have consequences for that impulsivity that's going to be really, really problematic for us.
Yes. And I love the way you said you have a prayer for him. And that's it. Like, that's the bottom line, is just prayer. What do you think, Pat?
I think for a lot of people, they don't listen. And I talk to people about listening and speaking. A lot of people hear me, but they don't hear what I've said to them. So I have people talk about when we were little, how we used to play the telephone game. And by the time it got to the end of the line, it was something totally different because people don't listen.
And so you just feel like nobody listened. Okay, your point, Francie, what do you think about that slap? 1 second now.
I saw Will Smith being human, less than perfect. We teach emotional self-regulation. However, and he practices, I think he spent most of his life practicing that. I'm a therapist, I teach this, but sometimes I lose my temper and I fail to be Buddha himself. And so I just saw a human being human. And that's the PC professional answer. But as a woman, that's hot for a man to protect me, to stand up, to feel my pain, to feel my pain. That's not the, like I said, that's not the proper way to handle it. And we don't know the whole story. And I
Wait a
think
minute, you said that's hot? That was hot?
it's hot
Oh my
for my man
God.
to look at to see me that I'm in pain, and then to feel my pain and be moved to do something with it. But Dr. Obari Carmen is correct. That's not the correct way to handle it. Most of the time, I practice exactly how I teach my clients, to practice emotional intelligence, emotional self-regulation. But there have been a few times where I failed to do that because I am human. This is a practice that we are always trying to perfect as long as we on this earth. And I have to say that Will Smith has a great track record. So I just saw him being human.
Okay.
I saw him
So
fail to be
Stephanie,
perfect.
Stephanie, what do you think? Because you work with kids, you're in the school system, and I know on the south side of Chicago, honey, that conversation was hot. People are probably imitating it. I don't know. But what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. It was very, we had to shut it down at the first day when we got back to school because it was the topic of conversation. I am on the South Side. I work for Chicago Public Schools on the South Side of Chicago, where in Auburn Gresham. So it's popping all the time. So I really cannot. So I have to teach my students every day. We try to teach them how to deal with their anger and not resort to violence all the time. Not at any time. However, that's something when they see it, they watch Bad Boys, they watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they watch that. So it was very troublesome for him to go up there as a professional. It was troublesome to go up there and to do that because especially when it was your friend, right? They have a relationship. They have where they can actually talk to one another. And so for you to just go up there, shock the world, shock him, where you could have had a conversation about what took place. And you could have handled it differently, handled it on the side, handled it in the back. But for the whole world to see was very difficult. And so I looked at it. Yes, he was protecting her, but at the same time, there's so many ramifications behind it. And that was why it was a struggle for me, because we as Black people, we don't get certain opportunities all the time. So it was more like a trickle down effect for me to go like, okay, not only is it
angry Black man and the angry Black woman. Here we go.
It's not just affecting him, it's affecting all the other people that took place.
Yeah.
So we could have handled it differently and had a mature conversation.
Yes. Khalid, you, and then Dr. Ivy, and then I want to go to Dr. Gettings because we're going to get into the brain.
Absolutely. Two things that struck me. With the actual slap, we saw how two different men handle a situation. And that's how life typically goes. You saw one man who lost control, and you saw one man in the moment of that storm remain eloquent. Role model how you get yourself together in that moment and still represent how we know to do. What I also appreciate and value, and maybe we haven't even thought of this, is the conversations that were going to take place after Sunday. And I got to tell you, in my therapy sessions, talking to colleagues, talking to friends and family, we've had the best discussions about marriage, about how we conduct ourselves, about the problems that plague us, and why therapy is so important, because what Will Smith did was a reaction, not to the joke, but to the last 7 years of being abused by social media, and his role as a man and as a father, and most importantly, as a husband.
Boom. Dr. Ivy?
So this is a topic that it definitely has come up. And when when you first look at it, it's like your brain is trying to figure out exactly what is happening. And then you realize that this unfortunate circumstance occurred. But what came to me is that there's something deeper involved in this exchange between these two men. And what also came up is the when we have an opportunity for aggression. Some people say this is violence, or perhaps it was aggression in a way that caused a violent act. But biologically, I was feeling, this is a release of stress, fear, and a sense of lost control. And when I looked at Jada's face when he was laughing, whatever it is that whatever pact or understanding that the two of them have, that was his moment to prove something, not to anyone else in the
You ain't
world,
gonna entangle me.
but just
That's what it was.
for her. And so I believe, and someone said something about elitism. Well, no matter what happens, sometimes in this circumstance, you're not thinking about the potential ramifications of it.
Yeah.
But he made an intentional decision that whatever that was, he was going to cope with it.
Yeah.
So stress, fear, and a sense of losing control. And I believe that control had something to do with him and his wife.
Yeah.
And I believe that they will come out of this because the two of them are very spiritual people. So they understand how to use their energy to elevate. So they were not afraid of the backlash. He needed to do what he had to do. Yes, we all need to process it. We need to educate our children. This was a moment of clarity so that we can be clear about domestic violence and violence in general, and have these conversations with our children so that they can have a better understanding of what happened between a man and a woman.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that you guys answered it. And it was just, is it just me, y'all? Was it just some totally different perspectives? And that kind of tells you from where everybody sits. So Dr. Gettings, I want you to weigh in, and then I want us to get into the brain biology, because we're going to take people through what is happening to the dang on brain in those moments. What's happening? Because I want to trickle backwards, because something happened to him and that brain, and how it's all interconnected in how we respond. And then I want to go through after that all of the different specialties. So Dr. Gettings, it's your floor.
Are you all able to hear me? Because I see a delay in my screen.
We can hear you great. And you look great.
Good. I don't think that my sound is matching up with what you see, and I apologize. But there seems to be a delay. But what I would like to say in regards to what happened at the Oscars, for me, watching that as a mental health professional, I saw Will Smith choose to communicate in an aggressive way. And when we talk about therapy, which is what we're talking about tonight, and counseling individuals, I think one of the major key points that we utilize is helping people to choose healthy communication styles. And so I would say that that was not a healthy choice on his part. When we talk about the brain biology and what we can identify with what he did, we all are impulsive beings on some level. We have reactionary impulses when we are triggered emotionally. And it is the frontal lobe, or the part of your brain that helps you to kind of put the brakes on when you are about to respond to an impulse. I really felt bad for Will. I've actually been concerned a lot about his own mental health post that situation, because when we have an impulsive reaction, oftentimes we're regretful in the aftermath. And the aftermath for him has been, in my opinion, again, with social media, another trauma. And so that's my biggest concern for him. But I think in that moment, he chose to communicate how he felt, or how his wife influenced him to feel in that moment, through an aggressive act.
Yes.
So tell us about the brain biology. Let's go into what happens to the brain in mental health. What is the differences in this sort of analogy of the brain? So let's go to the brain biology first, and then we're going to go back.
Well, one of the biggest points that I want to make tonight, especially just kind of piggybacking on talking about Will Smith, is that our brain develops in response to our environment and our experiences. And so when you look at someone react in the way that Will Smith did, and you think about his book and you think about what he has disclosed about his childhood, his upbringing, his original relationships, even if we go as far to say that he's in an abusive relationship right now, the likelihood of this being his first abusive relationship, clearly there are signs there that his role in this dynamic is one that's learned. So when we look at learned behavior and neurobiology, what we're exposed to basically dictates our brain development. And when we think about the brain, it's comprised of neurons, which are cells that we have billions of, and they communicate through these different connections. And we have this saying in neuroscience, neurons that wire together, fire together. So whatever neurons that you have firing on a regular basis will strengthen. So if you have a child that, let's say, is raised in an environment with domestic violence, like Will Smith, he will learn early on a way to respond to that type of a situation, whereas someone who's not raised in that environment may learn how to respond differently. Their brain wiring essentially will be different. How he responds to seeing violence, being around violence, may be different than someone who did not grow up in that type of environment. There are different brain structures that will develop differently depending on what we're exposed to. And that's why I was so happy to do this show tonight, because a lot of times when we talk about therapy, we write it off as like, oh, I'm just going to go talk to somebody. Well, I got a girlfriend I could talk to. I could talk to my friend. I could talk to my mama. Therapy is so much more than just talking to someone. And when we look at the science behind our brains and what we refer to as neuroplasticity, which is the ability for your brain to continue to change and evolve over time, when you have new experiences, a supportive environment that therapy offers, new relationships, and new learning, you are growing new cells, you are making new connections, and you are essentially changing your mind. And so that's why therapy is so powerful. And I pray that Will Smith gets the therapy that he needs. It might not be at the red table. He might need to actually invite a therapist into the room. And that would be my feedback to him.
So you talked about the neurons. So I want to kind of go into the variations, because I wanted to break down like what happens in the brain as far as like, okay, so when you're depressed, or when you have anxiety, like break down those two things that we talked about. But I also want people to know what is the differences in each role that you all play. So Dr. Abari, I know that you are president, I think, of the Black Psychologists of Illinois. Did I say that right? Did I get that right? Or I didn't get that right?
The Chicago Association of Black Psychologists. It's a national organization. We got Chicago chapters. 50-plus-year-old organization that's been focusing on African-centered perspectives on mental health, sort of the Black story, the narratives, the understandings of the particular things that cause trauma for us in unique ways, and ways to intervene that are culture specific. So
what does a psychologist do, though? Like, when somebody comes to a psychologist, listen, people, write this stuff down. What is the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist?
So I'll let somebody else do that. I'll start with a different distinction. My degree was in clinical psychology and community psychology. So community psychology is a whole nother perspective on this, where we think about what are the larger systemic contexts, like a sociologist, that influence individual functioning. So part of my work asks questions like, if there's a shortage of therapists, what are some of the community level interventions that we can do in schools and community settings and barbershops and churches that don't require individual one-on-one therapy, that look at the policies, that look at the economic flows, that look at structures of communities, to think about how those play into our mental wellness, our functioning, or our disease. So I do that from a community level and think about grassroots community level access from a very specific cultural lens, looking at African-centered rituals and practices and value systems, and reintegrating those things that a part of my analysis means that the traumas we experience as Black people included being separated from those traditions that had medicine and power in them from the continent of Africa. So therapy for me means bringing those things back into the therapy space and doing it at a level that is not always just individual one-on-one therapy, but thinking about community level access and sort of group level interventions.
And I like that because that gives, when we talk about men and mental health, especially Black men, you do a lot like the men's drum circle and
Yeah,
like yoga,
absolutely.
and it gives them an environment that doesn't make them feel like they're alone. Don't make them look like they're laying on the couch telling you their business. Like, I ain't telling you all my business, and it's a safe place. And you've been doing that for how long? And then you do it where? Like on the South Side or?
Yeah, South Side, West Side. I really like to go into places where men already are. I do some stuff in prisons, detention centers, high schools. It's hard to get men into a space, right? Right. I mean, because so one of the things that we learn is that you can't put a flyer out that says, "Hey guys, come talk about your feelings." They won't come to that, but they will come to a drum circle. They'll come if there's food, if there's some sports theme, and once we're there, we talk. Like we talk about the stigma, but men talk. Once we get them in a room and they feel safe, they're not being judged, they're not being labeled, they're not being shamed. Like men are ready to talk. We just have to be deliberate and strategic about setting the space and creating the opportunities and really speaking to the culture of masculinity and what men are into and bringing that into therapeutic practices. So we have a new session of the Black male yoga, comedic yoga at Blue Door Neighborhood Centers in Pullman, 111th. Right off the E-way. We were at the Quarry for a couple of years doing drums.
Yeah, you were at the Quarry, right?
Yeah.
We're going to put up the information on how to reach you and all of that after. Stephanie, you're a school counselor. What the heck does a school counselor? Because all I remember, I don't know, what do school counselors, I don't remember what school counselors did in a day, but has it changed? What do you do? You know, what exactly, when you say you got to go see the school counselor, do people get scared or do they kind of don't know? Like, all right.
It's definitely changed from when I went to school. It's very different. I went to Catholic school, so we didn't have school counselors. Then I went to high school, and I saw my counselor probably about 4 times ever, once a year, to pick my schedule every year. And then I saw them if I had when we had ACT and PACT and PSAT test results. That was it. I didn't see him. He wasn't horrible. I mean, that's what he was supposed. I guess that's what he was supposed to do. So when I decided to go into the field, I wanted to change it. I didn't want to do the same thing. I wanted to make an impact on my students, and so that was important to me to not be that school counselor. So now I didn't want to be that school counselor, and so school counseling has changed so much now. Right now, we are heavily involved in social emotional learning, and what's important with social emotional learning, what that means, what that looks like.
And what is social and emotional learning? What does that mean for the layman person listening?
So social emotional learning is, it's based on, maybe there's like 5 SEL competencies. That's what we a lot of times govern our work on, these competencies that we do. So there's self-awareness, and that's just knowing about your thoughts and your thoughts and feelings, and kind of getting an understanding of what your thoughts and feelings are and how that works with your everyday life, right? And help. Then the next one is kind of is more self-management and how you manage those thoughts and feelings. And so how those, then it leads to something with making positive and responsible decisions. So you're trying to teach students how to make positive decisions. And
is that working? Like, Stephanie, let's be real. You are in the Chicago public school, South Side, honey. Woo, woo, South Side. And is it working? Like, we already talked, I gave y'all the numbers on how many people have anxiety and depression. And I also talked about people who don't go to therapy. Then I talked about the shortages. Are these kids aware? Like, are you guys connected to mental health professionals? Are you encouraging them to go to NAMI support groups? Like, how deep are we talking about mental health in the schools?
So in the school setting, we kind of touch the surface. Okay. We do some small groups. We do some one-on-one therapies. Some one-on-one counseling, individualized counseling. We try to go into the classrooms and teach them the foundations that they need to know, how to make good choices, how to make good friends, how to be kind to one another. All of those things, the basic fundamentals that they may not be getting when they're at home. So you have to think of, it really takes a village. So what they're experiencing at home may not be teaching them those basic foundations. And so we as school counselors, we have to go in and talk to them about what they need to do. And also, even after that, if you make a bad decision, how are you going to fix it so you won't continue to make the bad decisions?
Right.
So, just like the definition of insanity, doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting different results. So you're going to end, if you don't make the changes, then you're going to continue to see the same type of results. So our students, we really do everyone has to help. It's not just us, it's community, it's staff, it's teachers, it's administration, it's parents. Everyone has to work together because they're not going to just change overnight, especially when they don't have the basic foundations. So that's the hard part. And oftentimes, remember, you do know what you're supposed to do. It's you just don't act on the things that that you making I hit him in the head. I'm not supposed to hit him in the head. I know that I'm not supposed to do that. However, I do it and deal with the consequences. So we have to teach them how to make good choices, how to be responsible, how to not be so aggressive, how to be assertive, and the difference between assertive and aggressive.
Yeah, I learned that in therapy, right, Dr. Gettings? Right? All right, to you, yes. Dr. Ivy, what do you do? Aromatherapy, a hypnotherapist, a psychotherapist, a ha. You have like 900 isses. But tell us what do you do?
Oh, well, so listening to that, also, I want you to know that all of that has come over a 41-year professional career.
Yeah.
So as you grow into your work, you begin to see other practices that can be a bit more effective than what you had before. But I started off in the early 70s, understanding and knowing the power of thought. And when I went into college, I knew that I was going to be some type of a counselor, a therapist, or something. So I continued throughout my entire educational process to focus on this. And then as a psychotherapist here in the Washington, D.C. area, I was introduced to the singing crystal bowls. And I didn't know what that was. I just went into the store and they was like, sit down here and try this. And then when I tried the power of sound healing, that's when I knew that there was some value and some powerful gifts in holistic and spiritual approaches to healing. So I just started my healing process, and I learned that talk therapy was very effective, but it became like laser quantum sharp when you add sound frequencies with it.
And it works. I actually can attest to the sound vibronics. Pat Windsor, I know you do a lot of things with anxiety, depression, and so tell us what you do. What is your specialty? Tell the people, talk real, yeah.
I will.
And I see you, Jenny. I see your comment. She said deep vow to you, Dr. Ivy. Yeah, we see you, Jenny.
I typically see a lot of women, and it's either anxiety or depression. Mm-hmm. And I try to normalize therapy because people are afraid of therapy. It's like, oh, I'm not crazy. And I'm like, you don't have to be crazy. You just need to work on some things and find some things out about yourself and about some ways to do things differently. I usually use music. I always talk about some of the regular music you hear every day. Sit down, listen to that. Take 5 minutes, be totally still, listen to that song. And they look at me like, it's not that simple. No, you got to do something else along with that. You know, you got to learn to communicate too. You know, you're talking to me, fine. But then a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm in church. I go talk to my pastor. Okay. Then they figure out that doesn't work and they end up calling me again. So like someone else was saying, talk therapy, that's what I do.
Talk therapy. And you, Francie?
Am I on? Oh, I'm a psychotherapist. And for me, that means I dive deep. And I could really relate to what Dr. Ivy was saying, because I'm also now started life coaching, because I was having this, when you said you start to connect with other modalities, I was having 6 sessions a week with, it was like the same person, but it was 6 different people. And so that's when I discovered the power of community. You know, it was 6 people that were dealing with the same trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going through it at the same time. And I was seeing them. They were saying the same thing to me. And and so I told them about each other and I created a group. And that's the way you feel about the sound. I felt like it elevated what I was doing in individual counseling to put them in a community.
Yeah. And so what's the difference between life coaching?
Now, they're not my life coaching clients. I'm saying I took right.
I understand what you said, but what's the difference between a life coach and a therapist? Like, what is the
difference? Anybody who is a counselor, psychotherapy is one form of counseling. Okay. So anyone who is a professional counselor coaches. That's part and parcel of counseling.
Okay.
That's just one of hundreds of ways to intervene when you're working with a therapist. Because when you're working with your therapist, she's also coaching you. So a coach is going to coach someone that doesn't have mental health disorder, severe symptoms, and is able to function. When you're working with a therapist, that means your mental health, you have mental health issues and severe symptoms that are reducing your ability to function.
And I read on your bio, which was cool. Something was happening with your camera, so I think we read it, and then you came in later. But you're trained in EMDR,
right?
Yeah. And what does that stand for? Tell people.
Eye movement desensitization, and rapid EMD, desensitization and reprocessing.
I did EMDR.
Isn't it awesome? I did trauma. Too. I'm a trauma survivor. Mm-hmm.
So tell people so I did EMDR. So I was diagnosed when I first came out of the psychiatric hospital on July 15, 2020 with major depressive disorder, PTSD, social anxiety, and panic disorder. And I had some childhood trauma, which I spoke openly about, being raped at 10, molested at 10 and 12 and raped and all these things, an abusive relationship. So EMDR for me was, we processed each trauma and they told us to like go down, like something, go in a box and like go down, and then they tell you to go down and bury it or something. It was like all this
That's
stuff
one of your mental resources.
With what part of the brain is that working on, Dr. Gettings? Like, I don't know, like the eye movement, they said that they would do the trauma,
bilateral stimulation,
and then it's supposedly to make it blurry,
break down.
To break down the sharpness of that. Did I say that right? Did I explain that right?
So whenever you are when the trauma is triggered, it shuts down your amygdala. It Correct. Shuts down that frontal lobe. That's why I was doing like this when you guys were talking about reaction. Will Smith. That's how I teach my clients. When you're triggered, now your limbic system, the what they call the reptilian brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
It done shut down your frontal lobe. And you talking to the snake. Don't talk to people when they trigger, because you talking to the snake. They're not even present anymore. So anyway, the amygdala, when you're in severe emotions, when you're intensely emotional, or a trauma is triggered, your executive functioning is shut down. The amygdala, the alarm system, shuts this down and says our lives are being threatened. The brain does not know the difference between physical pain and emotional pain.
Say that one more time. Say it one more time.
The brain does not know the difference between physical pain and emotional pain. So if you're in severe emotional pain, then your body is going to react as if your life is being threatened. The amygdala is going to shut this down. So that's why we do bilateral stimulation as we are processing traumas. So that, because when you have a trauma, it will not allow it will not be adaptive. It creates neural networks in your brain that do not allow new information to update. You can't tell an anorexic woman that she's not fat. You can't talk her out of that.
Right.
You got to do something different.
And that's and I'm saying, because what some stuff.
Why don't you just look on the bright side to a depressed person? Oh, my God.
That's why we're developing something. Obari, I have to, you got to get an NDA so I can tell you, but we're developing something that I need all of y'all to be a part of, because when I came home from the hospital, especially with the stigma and the Black people, they say everything
look on the bright
side,
and
that's where more trauma happens. And because when I'm having a panic attack, y'all, please, when somebody's having a panic attack, don't tell them to calm down. Please don't tell them to calm down. And we're gonna tell you what you should do. But the first thing I'm gonna tell y'all right now, if y'all don't learn nothing else when you walk away, when somebody's having an anxiety panic attack, do not tell them to calm down. If they knew how to calm down, they would calm.
When somebody's very angry, don't tell them to calm down.
Don't tell them to calm down. Okay, Khalid, what do you tell us about you, and what do you do?
All right.
Yeah.
In my 29-year career, I've worked with everything and everybody, right? And I've learned that people want to do better and be better, but they don't have the skills or the techniques or the intervention or the knowledge to do such. And I have this thing about happiness is homemade, right? So if you want to get to the happy place, you have to deal with you first. And you have to shut down all the outside voices, right? So when I'm working with my clients, right, I'm helping them to understand that you are important, right? So even when I'm doing marriage therapy, where you think I'm addressing both the husband and wife, I'm letting them know when you are the best version of yourself, then you will be a better partner in your marriage, right? If you are a parent and you're having issues with your child, or your child is having issues with you, you have to do the internal and individual work first. You have to be invested in your happy, right?
Yes.
And then I also want Black folks, people of color, to understand, and we all said this over and over, if you fall down some stairs and break your leg, you're going to Ingalls. You're going to Rush. You're going to get treated, right? Yes. But if this is not well, this is not feeling good, if this is funky, I need you to see one of these people on the screen right now, because you owe yourself to be mentally, physically, and spiritually, in every other way, healthy, right? Yes. And so during this pandemic, I think we all have seen this upsurge of people saying, wait a minute, I do need some help. Because guess what? You know why? We slowed down. And we didn't ask to slow down. But in us slowing down, we saw all these epiphanies go off. We saw these Pandora boxes come open to say, you're not doing really good.
Right. We were running away from everything that was right there. And Absolutely. Then boom, we were like, oh, I don't really know you or like you. And Absolutely. Then everybody went down. Dr. Gettings, somebody asked, why are you not tell a person to calm down? I think somebody named Ronnie Cooper asked that.
So I think to tell someone to calm down when they're having a panic attack most often comes across as somewhat belittling, or as though they couldn't figure out the way to help decrease their symptoms in a very easy way. So when a person is having a true panic attack, what we have to realize is that your brain is part of your central nervous system, which is your autonomic system, okay? And it responds to different chemicals in your body, like cortisol and epinephrine. And how one person experiences anxiety is going to be very different from another individual. So when you say something like, you know what, just brighten up, just get over it, just calm down, it really like simplifies what that person is going through in a way that it doesn't validate it, and it doesn't address it to the degree that it may need to be. And I think a lot of people feel sometimes insulted because it's like, well, if I could do that, then don't you think I would have done that by now?
Exactly.
So that's why it kind of comes across in that way, I believe. I didn't know if you wanted me to share,
Oh, you're a psychiatrist. So what does a psychiatrist do? Because see, I had a psychiatrist, and just so y'all know, Dr. Gettys and our friends, all of us, I get like processed every conversation. First, like, girl, what you doing? Girl, I'm cooking something. But last night, and then I get an hour session. Hey, you get that snick up in there. I'm gonna call you sometime, Amari. What you doing? Well, I was feeling a little down yesterday. What you got to say, brother? But anyway, tell us the difference so people know, what is a psychiatrist?
Yes. So I think it's really important that we're doing this show to differentiate between specialties, because a lot of it is not necessarily confusing, but people just don't know. So when you say psychiatrist, which sounds very similar to psychologist, it can oftentimes be used interchangeably when it shouldn't be. Psychiatrists have doctorates of medicine. So when they graduate from college, they go to medical school and they do rotations in a lot of different fields: pediatrics, obstetrics and gynecology, surgery. And we have an opportunity, obviously, to choose which field of medicine we want to specialize in. I always tell people that there are 3 brain specialists underneath that medical doctor umbrella. You have neurologists, you have psychiatrists, and you also have neurosurgeons. And within psychiatry, you can specialize. We have forensics, we have child and adolescent, which I specialize in. We have addictions, which is very important, obviously. We have geriatrics with our growing population living with dementia. We also have consultation liaison. So the major difference when you think about what's the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist, people used to say, oh, a psychiatrist can prescribe you medicine. But actually, that isn't even a true distinction anymore, because in some states, they've passed legislation that allows psychologists to prescribe medication with additional training. And why have they done that? Because we have a shortage. There's such a huge national shortage of mental health professionals. So if you don't take anything away from tonight, please go encourage our youth, a loved one, to pursue a career in mental health. I want to say thank you to all the school counselors and Ms. Adams on our panel. My first experience in counseling was with my school counselor, being in a home with domestic violence, and she saved my life and gave me a true appreciation for the importance of therapy. So everyone here represents a certain area or nook of this whole mental health picture. And there's so many different types of therapy. We haven't even scratched the surface as far as that goes. But I think that it's important for us to start this conversation so people understand the importance. I just want to say this. I know I'm delayed, y'all. I'm sorry. But we have to look at our brain as a muscle. It can be rebuilt. You have to look at your whole body.
Say that one more time, honey.
You have to look at your brain as a muscle. It can be rebuilt.
It can be rebuilt.
Some of us have built some bogus brains, okay? And some of it is by choice. Some of it was not by choice, right? Some of it may be because we grew up in a household where no one knew how to help you develop a healthy brain. But that don't mean you have to keep walking around with this dysfunctional brain. You have the choice to take action, develop good relationships with good professionals. And the reason why this is so important, y'all, is because your brain controls so much of your other health outcomes. So when you talk about your brain function, we have studies now that show therapy helps immune function. It helps to decrease inflammation in the body. A lot of depression is caused by inflammation in the brain. Dementia is caused by inflammation in the brain. Wouldn't you want to do something that's going to help your immune system or your cardiovascular system? All these systems work together. So my take-home point, please stop saying therapy is just going to talk to somebody. It's demeaning to those of us who've been trained in it, and you're basically sending yourself off if you think that you can get therapy from someone who hasn't taken one class on how to provide a therapeutic relationship.
So We got literally, I told y'all every show I'll be like, this show should be 3 hours long, y'all. I need 1 minute to wrap it up. So everybody, before we leave, because we got to get Angie in here, but I took therapy. I did EMDR. I did cognitive behavioral therapy, talk therapy. I had a psychiatrist, but I had a psychiatrist, not like Dr. Gettings. That's why she's a gem, that did my medication management because my therapist could not prescribe me the antidepressants I was on. So when I would sit with my psychiatrist, he would just ask me questions like, how's the medicine? How you feeling? How you doing? Because all he's trying to see is, does he need to titrate me up or titrate me down? Give me more of the medicine in my system or take it away. When I started doing sound vibronics and meditation, as you guys know, I'm a yogi now, and mindfulness, I promise you, when Dr. Getting says your brain, my brain reprogrammed. I am no longer on antidepressants. Not that I want you guys, if you're on medicine, there's nothing wrong with it. But my psychiatrist titrated me down, and I came off of antidepressants. I'm not on a PRN, which was Ativan for my anxiety and my cortisol. I wasn't on my Boosprol. Not only that, but I went and got an echocardiogram, and they didn't even find my heart condition that I had that I was taking medicine for. I don't even take high blood pressure medicine anymore because I learned gratitude and love and how to breathe and how to take that traffic control that I'm telling you guys to do. So before we go on this last 6 minutes, I literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y'all need to take less than 1 minute and wrap this up, because what we're going to do is we're going to rebroadcast this show again next week, and then we're going to do a second part. And we're going to break it down with each specialty, because we're going to just spoon feed this stuff to the Brangels, and we're going to take each specialty and then just do a show on psychology, because I really want you guys to get this. And I want you guys, the reason I just say this stuff off my tongue like this is because I want to normalize this conversation and this narrative. I have a diagnosis. I got the help, and look at me. God brought this assignment to my front door. Okay. So 30 second, go. What do you want to talk to my Brangels, our Brangels? What do you want them to know on what you're doing? Say it right now. We can start with you, Khaled. Okay. Well, no, let's go ladies first. Let's start with you, Pat, then Stephanie, then Dr. Ivy, then Francie.
Therapy does not hurt. It is a positive. You learn something about yourself in therapy.
That's it.
Go do
it. Go do it. Go do it. Next.
You are essentially whole. And if you don't feel that way, if you're not functioning that way, all that means is that there's just a few things between you and that, and it can be resolved.
And go to Dr. Ivy last, because I want to do the brain balance with her. So go to one of the other ones, and we'll end with Dr. Ivy and then Dr. Gettings, and we'll bring in Angie.
I want everyone to encourage to build a relationship with your school counselor. If you have children, encourage your children to go and talk to their school counselor, build a relationship with them. And you as parents and guardians, go and talk to their school counselor and to see what you can do to improve the social emotional well-being of your student and your child.
Beautiful. Thank you, Stephanie. Unmute yourself, doctor.
Last point I wanted to make around sort of the conversation around mental health and wellness is that as much as we as adults are struggling and had a tough time through COVID, that our children are so much more vulnerable. We need to pay very close attention to them, listen very carefully to interrupt the isolation that this world is encouraging them to do, to pause them from scrolling and get into their rooms and listen to their music and take their iPhones and their iPods out their ear, listen to the music with them. We really need to really pay close attention to our young people right now, because the youth suicide rates are rising, the addictions are rising. We're about to see another hot summer in Chicago. We'll see more violence, and I think we can get ahead of that with more conversations like this around our true well-being internally.
Thank you, doctor. And so, Dr. Gettings.
Yes. I want to tell our Brangels that at the end of the day, if you don't know how to take care of yourself, you won't be able to. And so every week we are here to educate you on just that. Our brain biology is so important because it impacts all body systems. Tonight, we touched on the amygdala and other areas of the brain and neural circuitry. At the end of the day, our brain wires and fires based on our experiences and what we're exposed to. And if you've been exposed to a lot of unhealthy stuff, choose something healthy to expose yourself to so you can work on making some new connections in your own brain. That's my
I
word.
love it. Thank you, doctor. Now give us some brain balance. Oh, we got Dr. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. I want to address the men in our audience and the women who love men. Right now in my private practice, I have mostly male clients, and this is unheard of, but it's the best thing going. Brothers, we deserve to be heard. We deserve to be valued, and we deserve to have a love affair with ourselves. In order for us to protect everybody else, to include our family, friends, our community, we have to start with us first. So don't be shy. Going to therapy is the bravest thing you can do as a man. Don't forget it.
That was powerful. Let's get some brain balance in here with Dr. Ivy. Can we talk about the brain balance? You're on mute. Let's see that brain balance.
Indeed. What comes to me around brain balance is being able to entrain the brain. And by entraining the brain, and we create a mental balance. And using sound and silence can help us to maintain that balance with the breath, sound, and silence with the right frequencies. We can create what is known as alpha and theta brain waves. And these are the brain waves that put our brain in a space and place to be ready for healing. So, entrain your brain, create new thought forms that empower you, and release those thoughts that create negativity and bring your energy down. Spend time in the silence, breathe, and create a brain balance with alpha and theta brain waves. And you can actually Google that or look on YouTube, and you can find the right music that is designed specifically for whatever that emotion is that you need to create.
Thank you, doctor. And now let's end it with our friend and Brain Gang member, Angie Supermom, on the Brain Buffet. What should we be eating in our diet, since this show is about the mind, body, and the soul?
Well, my Brain Buffet tip of the day is to remember this tagline: use food for mood. So as a tool in your toolbox, the foods that you eat are just as important as the foods that you don't eat. Sort of piggybacking on what Dr. Geddes was saying earlier about how inflammation in the brain causes mood disorders, there are certain foods that cause inflammation. So my quick tip of the day to have in your toolbox is to eliminate white foods, things that are white, things that could be white, or things that were white at one point. Those are foods that create lots of inflammation in the brain, which is no good. So that is my brain tip of the day, my Brain Buffet tip of the day.
Thank you, Angie.
You're
and so if you
welcome.
want to get in touch with Angie or any of our guests, with Dr. Ivy, I know she has the beautiful sound spa. When she talked about those sound vibronics, go to drivishadia.bandcamp.com. She has a new sound vibronic healing frequency of love, sonic meditations for relaxation and deep healing. And I promise you guys, I do the brain chakra at night, and I have these vivid, beautiful dreams. It's 11 minutes. I think I'll fall asleep after 3 minutes. Check it out. Really start thinking about how to do that with your brain. And then also, if you want to get in touch with any of our other guests, here's Stephanie. You can reach her on LinkedIn as Stephanie N. Adams. Follow her, connect with her, to get in touch with Pat Windsor at patwindsorlcsw.com, and to get in touch with Franzi, our brain gang, at thesteelmill.com. That's Franzi Giordani at thesteelmill.com. She's a life coach and she's a therapist, and she does EMDR, y'all. So get in touch with her. And of course, to get in touch with Angie, you can reach her on IG, YouTube, and the Keto Supermom. She's known all over the world as the Keto Supermom of 6. And she can tell you about her journey of how she lost, I think, like over 150 something pounds. I don't even know. But follow her and see all the tip of the days that she does and all the recipes and food for Angie. And then, of course, to get into the one of the nation's premier experts of mental health of young Black men. That's Dr. AbariCartman.com. You can reach him at Facebook at Dr. Abari Cartman, on Instagram at ocartman1, and at Twitter at ocartman1. And of course, to get in touch with my co-host, Khalid Scott, at highachiever.net. His number's here. I tell people to screenshot this, rewind it, rewatch it on thebraintruth.com, go to YouTube, and that's how you get rich. And we have another slide for him because he's like Mr. Super Dupe. And so he's a clinician and consultant, a psychosocial therapy, mental health training, transformational speaker. So all of these that are on the panel too are available for speaking engagements and everything like that. So I think that's it. Was that like all the 100 people we had on the panel today? Do I get to all of them? So I just want to remind you guys that mental health is real. I said the number, 264 people worldwide has depression. So keep watching us, Brangels. Keep in touch, and we'll see you next week. Like I said, we're going to rebroadcast this show, and I want everybody to remember your traffic control and remember to keep supporting us. So let's ready ourselves for the brain bliss. So let's just all take a deep breath and remind yourself, I am a peaceful soul. I am a pure soul. I am capable. I desire to heal. And the power is right here within me. I am open to being authentic. I am open to letting go. Letting go of ego, anger, and attachment. I am open to forgiveness. I am okay. I desire mental, physical, and emotional awareness. I desire clarity, calm, and pure mindfulness. I am okay. I will receive love and give love freely. I am open to a deeper connection to Source. I am love. I am love. Thank you, Brangels. I love you, and see you next week.
Vibrations of love. And some say love is a verb. But much deeper than that, love is a vibration. It is that energy that stirs the soul and opens up the heart. Vibrations of love call out to the divine that connects us with the beauty of life and the oneness of it all. I need not to say it with words, although it is always nice to hear. But greater still is to feel it. Vibrations of love lift me higher, and I fill the empty spaces within the soul. It is the divine in its purest essence. It is me at the height of my being. I am vibrations of love.